Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm finally back with a full-length story, or just a full-length video in general. I haven't had a computer in 7 months, but I do now. I'll get more into my whole computer situation later on in this video. But for today's topic, I will be talking about how I actually got arrested for something that I literally didn't do. Now, first of all, I would have gotten charged anyway because of how the altercation turned out, which I kind of hate myself for it. But I would most definitely avoided jail if it wasn't for my mom. Second, I also want to put out the fact that my parents are not the negotiable type, especially my mother. I'm sure some of y'all already know about this, but just in case if you don't, she and I have been back and forth arguing, going through problems, and all that junk for years. Over a decade now, I should say. My stepdad, who moved in with us just over a year ago, has had many problems with me as well, and let me tell y'all, a lot of those problems have ended up pretty violently. Nowadays, I just try to ignore them as much as possible before another altercation happens until I get kicked out this summer, which was told by the court that I could become a felon if the same thing happens. But quite honestly, I'm just really sick of their drama, and I can't wait to be able to move on with life without my mother and stepdad and live life how I actually want it to be. But until then, I'd like to take the time to catch up on schoolwork this trimester, sign up for online school, look for a job, chill with the homies, and make YouTube videos. Starting off with explaining how I pissed off my parents in the first place. So, without further ado, please give this video a like, share it to a friend or two, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let's play Arrested on 3 Charges. This is going to start off with me at home about 7 months ago, back in the middle of last summer. I was eating some rice and chicken that my mom had sitting out in the kitchen. I went on my phone to look for somebody to hang out with, and sure enough, I was able to use my stepdad's bike to go to a friend's house. We'll call him Sam. Now, my stepdad has always been pretty edgy when it came to me using his stuff, because that's just how he was. I don't know why. A few of my other friends decided to tag along in our session to discuss some things that had happened prior to that moment. We talked about it, it made up our differences. After a while, my stomach starts to feel funny. I didn't think much of it until I instantly felt really sick and started puking all over Sam's backyard. Turns out, the chicken and soup that was in my rice, the food that I ate at my house before I left, was rotten, and that my mom had forgotten to throw it out. I didn't even know it was rotten because the food tasted just fine to me. So much for food. So, I'm laying down on one of Sam's benches, puking, knowing that if I come home without the bike, my stepdad's going to yell at me for it. I was in no condition to take the bike back home that night, let alone being able to walk straight without feeling like throwing up for hours. So, I ended up going inside somehow and took a fat nap on my friend's couch. I swear to God, that nap felt like it lasted less than 5 minutes. Sam's grandmother then wakes me up, says I've been sleeping there for a while and that I should figure out how I'm getting home. So I sat up. I still felt sick. I called a few friends to pick me up and bring me home. Nobody where I was had a car to bring me home. Eventually, somebody was able to come rescue me and bring me home. Before I left, Sam told me that by the time I needed the bike back, it'll be in his garage. After a friend dropped me off at home, I went straight to the couch and passed out for 12 hours, talking about a hangout gone wrong. So I wake up the next morning to my stepdad approaching me, and the first thing he asked is, "Where's my bike?" I told him about what happened last night and that it's in a friend's garage, safe. Of course he was pissed off. He was telling me that I shouldn't be using that bike to begin with because it's not mine and that I better get the bike back before the day ends. Like, he literally threatened to fight me to get that bike back. It's funny too because my mom bought 2 mountain bikes for anyone to use, and he's trying to act all big and take ownership of whatever just so I can't use it, let alone how much he would get solved by putting hands on me. I ended up having to walk an hour in the rain to where the bike was at. By the time I came back, my stepdad had already told my mom that I had left the bike at my friend's house, but in the wrong context. I tried to explain to my mom, but she was so pissed about it considering that I didn't even ask to use the bike, and I actually ended up getting kicked out of the house for it. Literally, that was so ridiculous. So I'm walking towards the downtown area of my city to bum around and do nothing because I had gotten kicked out over leaving a bike at a friend's house overnight. It took me about 3 hours to find someone's house to go to, but man, getting kicked out of your own house as a child sucks. Like, I see why most parents have to take responsibility over their children and take care of them, because the child literally can't do anything unless they get emancipated through court. So, After going to my friend's house, I spent the day with him, which was fine, but later on in the day, I was just not having a good time. My friend and like three other people had like a whole relationship together at one point. I think it's called a polyamory or something like that. We all linked up in a car later that night, and the vibe was just weird. I was really irritated though because it's midnight and I'm in a car watching all of my friends telling me they'll find a place for me to sleep while they're flirting with each other. But luckily I decided to risk it and call my mom to ask if I could come back home because I'd be in a very bad position if I didn't, and she said yes. So they dropped me off at home and I passed out hard. So I woke up the next day again. This time I was feeling better, but I noticed one thing that was really off in my room. All of my stuff was gone. My TV, computer, other equipment I used to make YouTube videos, my tablet, my lamp, change, my basket of clothes, and my charger was all gone. That's why I stopped uploading videos all of a sudden back in July. All I had in my room was a couple dressers and my bed. My room had looked like somebody had just moved in. I went to my mom to ask her where my stuff was, and at first she tried to act like she didn't know what happened. But I knew nobody broke into my room because my parents would have all the windows blocked with wooden planks, otherwise the glasses would have been shattered, and I knew either my mom or my stepdad have taken it because my parents like to snoop around my room. My mom's been doing that ever since back in 2017 when she first found out that I smoked weed. But after she tried it, I got mad and told her that she can't just take everything I have and not tell me about it. I kept asking her where my stuff was until she told me that I was grounded for a week because it wasn't the first time that I had left the bike at a friend's house. And they really worried about me being in the streets and getting it stolen, like somebody's going to stick me up for a mountain bike while I'm already hauling down the street. Pretty stupid to me, but whatever. She said after a week I wouldn't be grounded anymore and that I'd get my stuff back. So I waited for over a week and nothing happened. I drank a couple beers out of my stepdad's cooler and then I confronted her about it again. Because the fact that she's doing all this just to tell me not to leave bikes at my friends' houses when I can't bring them home is so stupid. She then told me that she left all of my stuff at someone's house and that she wouldn't be able to get it back because she had to go somewhere else. I got mad and started arguing with her because, for one, she lied to me, and two, sitting in my room doing nothing for days on end was driving me crazy. In fact, the argument got to the point where I left the house after smashing a beer bottle on my mom's front windshield. I think back to it now and I regret the way I reacted to this twice, along with drinking the first time. It makes me look more irresponsible and in the wrong, but at the time I just didn't care. I was just so sick of them, and I still am. But we'll get into the second part of that later in the video. Anyways, after I smashed out her windshield, my stepdad started following me a bit. He almost chased me down the street, but it was around 3 in the afternoon and there was a decent amount of people that were casually outside and witnessed me smashing a beer bottle on the windshield. He didn't want to add gasoline to the fire, if you catch my drift. So I was walking around for about 10 minutes before cops decided to surround me. One of the cops came up to me and noticed the smell of beer off my breath. I told the cop what happened and I got charged with underage drinking. Luckily, he didn't charge me with the damage of the windshield and arrest me. He believed that if something happened within the family at first, they would try to resolve it without anyone getting arrested. What a notable quote. After the cops interrogated me, they talked to my mom, and my mom had them take me to the hospital to get a psychological evaluation. It's basically a way to assess someone's behavior. I sat there for 4 hours, and right when it ended, my mom was waiting for me outside and was calling an Uber. I had went off on her saying she's a horrible person and that she should be ashamed of herself. I was just so sick of her BS. I cannot wait to leave her house. I then called my mom more names and stormed off on her, called up another friend to pick me up and hang, and then I went home later tonight to go to bed. So, this is the point of the story where things get pretty messed up. I kept confronting my mom about where my stuff was, and after almost a month of being lied to, she finally told me that she threw away everything I had for the expense of her windshield, and that she told me that I was a good-for-nothing hobo who never listens to authority and uses his friends just to live another 24 hours. And oh my God. Okay, let me calm down before I continue this story, because this is about to get me mad. So I went downstairs to try and calm myself down because what she said was cycling through my head a lot. My parents had kicked me out of the house so many times back when I was 15, 16 years old, to the point where I've had to have my own friends let me spend a night or two at their house, feed me, and in some occasions provide me rides to work or back home or something, with me giving them nothing in return. I didn't want to consider that using my friends for what they have, because I didn't just see myself like that, but holy crap. But if you had to deal with half of the problems my parents have had me put up with, you would have questions on how I'm still alive. I'm serious, too. So eventually I couldn't handle it and broke out in a mental breakdown. I started punching out cabinet doors, smashing glass on the ground, and screeched to the point where the neighbors could probably hear it. Instead of my mom taking the proper procedures of trying to calm me down, she picks up a vase and smashes it on my head. Man, that hurt. She then started beating me up. She also ripped my shirt in half, so that was fun. I was doing a decent job defending myself from the punches until my stepdad had ran into the kitchen, grabbed me, slammed me onto the ground along with his weight, and punched me directly in the face about 5 different times. My mom, on the other hand, continues by kicking me on the side. Eventually, my mom grabs her phone and calls the cops. They show up. I was crying in my room, so I couldn't really do anything. My glasses were crooked, my shirt was ripped in half, I had scratches all over me, and I had a bloody nose. About 10 minutes later, the cops lost all respect for me, threw me in cuffs, read me my rights, threw me in the back of a cop car with the remarks of I need to make better decisions, and stopped acting like a smartass. Turns out, my mom actually ripped out a couple braids of her head, showed them to the cops, and told them that I ripped her hair out along with beating her up and dragging her across the house. My stepdad also told them that I attacked him as well, which is what made my domestic assault charge worse than a misdemeanor. So, after I got arrested, I was brought to the juvenile detention center because I was 17 at the time. They got me registered, had me take off my clothes in exchange with their bland dark green outfit, and locked me in a cell by myself for 24 hours straight. They brought me my breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all I had was a stiff bed, a toilet, and an automatic sink. Man, being locked in a cell for the first time in your life is a life-changing experience. In the cell, I had no idea if the sun was up or not because the cell was in the middle of the building. I also thought I was going to be a goner for the rest of my life since I would be released only to live on the streets. To be honest, I shedded some tears. Some of y'all are going to think that I'm soft or whatever, but dude, getting arrested for something you didn't do makes the experience of being locked up so much worse. You don't get anything out of it. It also doesn't help when all the staff thinks that you're extremely hostile to the point where you'd put hands on your own mom. Literally, they had to bring me to a different cell just to take a shower. The next day, I was brought to the court. I had to wait 5 hours to see the judge. That wait was so boring. The judge basically told me what was going down in court started basically at the time my parents ratted me out for doing something I didn't even do, and I was facing 3 charges and up to 9 months. This was terrifying for me to hear because I believed if I had spent the rest of my childhood arrested, I'd be released shortly before I get kicked out of my house, and I wouldn't have any money, I wouldn't have a phone, I wouldn't have had anything. I'd be in the streets starving to death in the same clothes I got arrested in before any of my friends knew it. So, the charges I was facing were domestic assault, damage to property in the 4th degree, and underage drinking. I pleaded guilty to everything but the assault charge. I didn't punch her at all. I didn't rip any of her hair out, and I most definitely didn't drag her across the house. Literally a vase was smashed onto my head and I couldn't do anything for the first few seconds of being attacked. But my mom told the judge that I was being hostile and that her, along with my stepdad and my brother, remind you, it's her speaking over everyone, didn't feel safe with me around, which the judge found reasonable. So I was sent back to the juvenile detention center for 2 more days, met a lot of troublemakers who had far worse charges than me, slept uncomfortably, and you get the gist of it. Finally came the last day of being locked up. They woke me up earlier than everyone else, but once again I had no idea what time it was. I was handcuffed by my arms and legs again, brought to the courthouse again, waited another 5 hours, and went to court. I pleaded guilty to all of my charges, apologized to my mom face-to-face as ordered by the judge, and asked the judge to give me a chance. The outcome was this. The judge dropped the consumption under 21 and the damage to property charge, sentenced me to 6 months of probation, an educated apology letter to my mom, and 30 hours of community service or a $300 fine. I mean, coming out trying to adjust to life, recovering from a nicotine addiction, and visiting my probation officer every month wasn't the greatest, but it's a lot better than being locked up for 9 months. After I came home, I had nothing. I didn't even get my phone back until my stepdad talked to me about it later that day, and he told me that he considered smashing my phone on the ground before he gave it back to me. What a great inspiring message to give to your stepchild after beating him up and framing him for it. In conclusion of today's story, I wrote out the apology letter accordingly to the guy that was given to me, which basically just wanted me to apologize along with explaining how I can make things better between me, her, and the community around me. I was also able to pay off the fine 2 days after it was due because I was going through some money problems. I had just gotten a job at Taco Bell and my first check didn't come until the day after it was due.
Tuesday, 5th November 2019 at 3:09 p.m.
Hello, this is Anoka County giving you a call back. You had called and left a message in regards to your community work service / fine option that you were going to do or pay $300 fine on Thursday because you said you get paid from your job. Yes, you can go ahead and pay the money.
Luckily, I was able to have my PO extend the due date. Got drug tested once after I got released. Went through 6 probation sessions at school. Completed probation about 3 weeks ago, and now I'm a free man with nothing on my record. Did I say 3 weeks ago? I meant like a week and a half ago. The end. So I'm able to make videos because both my mom and my brother stopped using the laptop my mom bought a while ago. I just started using it about a week or 2 ago. I'm pretty glad that I finally have a computer in here again because being in my room sucked. There was always nothing to do here. I always had to call up a friend to hang out and leave the house because not only even that, but my parents are just so ignorant and rude when it comes to this. Literally throughout my entire probation period, my stepdad was just trying to start another altercation. Still does by yelling at me for every little thing I do around the house, and it's so annoying. But now that I have a computer, I finally have a way to kill time. Now, I have 3 months until I turn 18. That means I need to find a job, preferably before spring break because I need credits for a work seminar class I have. I need to find a place to live, along with finding a place for my birthday party. I need a car to make most of this happen, and I need to get into online school and try to get my credits over with before I get kicked out. To be honest, now that I'm a lot closer to this stuff compared to how close I was when I got arrested, I don't expect everything to work out in my favor. It never really has before, so I wouldn't be surprised if I was homeless for a little while after turning 18 or not graduating from high school on time or finding a job. Things just happen, and I've kind of just adjusted to it. It sucks, but what can you do when trying isn't enough? All I know is that for sure I'm going to be out of this house by the weekend of my birthday. I'm telling y'all, it's going to happen whether anyone likes it or not. I can't deal with my parents anymore. They've been nothing but hard times because they think it'll help me out in the real world. I know what the real world looks like. I've been homeless. I've seen friends go through serious addictions. I've been in near-death situations, faced being locked up, all that junk. My mom also wants me to go to college right after high school, but I don't even know if I'm even graduating this year, man. It's sad. But that'll be it for today's video. Thank y'all for watching. Sorry for going off a bunch in this video. It's just a touchy subject for me. Once again, if y'all like this video, please give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you're new to my content. Share this video to a friend or two. Follow me on all of my social media. The links will be in the description below. And I'll see y'all in the next weekend. Peace out. Sauce. I said in the next weekend. I meant see y'all next weekend. Alright, peace out.